Good evening, everyone. Welcome to COS Indiana Live. My co-host this evening, as usual, is Mr. Ken Kashuba. Hi, Ken.
Hi, Dale. How are you?
Good. So glad that you could join us this evening. It's nice, Ken has a job, has projects that he has to work on. So once in a while, he'll take a break, and join us on the broadcast here. So
always nice to be here. Always nice.
Well, Ken, as co-host, of course, Ken will be monitoring our comments and questions. So if any of you viewing this evening want to make a comment or ask a question, feel free to do so. And Ken will be monitoring those and will come in and put one on the screen here if as we get some good questions and or comments. And we normally do. We've been getting more and more, haven't we, Ken? I tell you, it's good to see.
Yeah, a lot of participation, and that's viewer participation is what we're all about.
That's right. Ken, this is our 158th broadcast. How about that?
Racking up pretty quick here, Dale.
Yeah. And you've been on what, maybe 6 or 7 of those, or I lose track.
I know. I'm afraid once you run out of toes and fingers that we're really going to be in trouble. But you've been stuck on 5 or 6 for quite some time. So actually, we've hit that quarter century mark. We're hitting 25. So.
25, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Would you like for me to add that to like 158/25?
That would help you. That would help you keep track.
That would. I don't know if our viewers would be interested in it. Maybe so. Okay, yeah. We'll start doing that.
That come when you put it out for a vote for my raise. They'll say, well, look at the numbers. So.
He always brings up this raise things, folks. Just for everyone's information, we are all volunteers in Convention Estates, but Ken is always asking for a raise and more money. But anyway, that's another.
I got to appeal to that corporate background of yours.
That's right. Just a reminder, our national website, conventionestates.com. Everything, if you want to join Convention Estates, which we hope you do, that's why we're doing this. We're trying to reach out to those of you specifically here in Indiana, but anywhere as far as that's concerned, to join Convention Estates. And the first step in order to make that happen is go to our national website, conventionestates.com, and sign up, become a supporter. That's the first step in getting involved in Convention Estates. Also want to mention we've got our roundtable broadcast coming up on July 25th. And Ken, that's the next broadcast, isn't it? That's next
month.
Yeah,
it's right around the corner, Dale. Yeah.
Coming up.
I have to interrupt you for a minute. We've already had a good comment, and I just have to bring it up because I think
really.
Yeah, yeah.
I bet. Ken is a steal at twice
the price.
I know who that is that made that comment.
I didn't pay him either,
You didn't pay him?
No.
I don't believe
that.
that.
Is a good thing when he sees it.
Okay. All right. But as I was saying, on the roundtable coming up July 25th, the format's a bit different. It's the same time and place, 7 p.m. Monday evening, the 25th. The format's a little different. It's a panel discussion of a panel of leadership individuals from Convention of States here in Indiana. And I think the best way to describe our topic this coming Monday is basically government overreach, right? Ken, is that the basic?
Yeah, it's been the hottest topic, I think, just recently here. Obviously, has been government overreach.
Right,
so
right.
Perfect time to sit around the table and get everybody's viewpoint on this, and certainly bring in a special guest so that we can talk about this.
Right. I think we're going to be talking about some of the a number of the Supreme Court decisions that have recently come down.
Yeah.
And their impact. I think it'll be a very interesting roundtable discussion. We've been getting very, very good response to this format. So look forward to next Monday evening. Should be very, very, very interesting.
Mark your calendar.
Huh?
I said mark your calendars.
Yep. Okay. What we've been, our theme this year has been, what action can I take in Convention of States? And action we're talking about from the standpoint of activism. So maybe that should be, what activism can I take in Convention of States? And there are a whole host of opportunities for you in Convention of States. It could be in could be a leadership position. It could be being a telepatriot, attending rallies. Could be a number of different ways that one can express your activism in Convention of States. And tonight, we're going to show you and present to you another one of the opportunities to express your activism. And we're going to interview our newest regional legislative liaison, Kelly Beall. And I think you're going to find Kelly very, very interesting. She is this regional legislative liaison is a new position that we've created in Convention of States. We've had a state legislative liaison and still do. Marty Wood is our state legislative liaison. But in order to decentralize and reach out throughout the state, we've created regional legislative liaisons. And Kelly is the first one that has taken this role on. So we're going to introduce you to Kelly and then give you an idea of what's on her mind, what her role is. And I think you'll find her very, very interesting young lady. So then we've got a contributor segment this evening. We're going to give you one of John Ackerman's John's Journal. It's going to talk about smaller government, kind of an appropriate topic in a way here, isn't it, Ken? Smaller government. I think you're going to enjoy John's contributor segment. Now, a contributor for us is a person that has, opinions, I should say, on certain issues. So we ask them to give us a short recording of and expressing their opinions, and John has done that a number of times, and we've just grouped those together and call them John's Journals. So we'll have a contributor segment from John's Journal this evening. And then, of course, our other segment of our presentation tonight is what we call Raise Your Voice. And this is the polling that we do every Monday evening. Ken, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Sure will, yeah. The polling, as you know, we use a software called Slido.com, and you can go to Slido.com if you've got a tablet, computer. You're sitting at your desktop right now, you can just go to Slido.com. I'm going to bring up a QR code here in a second, which I recommend is even easier to use if you've got your smartphone handy. So I'll bring that up now and show you the QR code we're going to use. And we will bring that up right now. So there's the QR code. Just take a shot of that with your camera and be ready to roll when we bring on our polling in our polling segment of Raise Your Voice.
I'm not seeing it, Ken. Have you?
You're not seeing it? No.
Have you? Are you seeing it from your end?
I am. Let's go back to. I don't know why it wouldn't be showing. Let's see. Go back to StreamYard here. You don't see it at all. It's still. Let's go back to. There. Is that showing now?
Now it's showing. Now it's showing.
Okay. There it is. There's your QR code. And again, if you're not using a smartphone, just go to Slido.com. The number is 2581654 to plug in, and that will be for the poll this evening. So, and if you don't get it now, don't worry. We'll show it again throughout the whole polling. It'll be on the left-hand side, so you can grab it then.
Folks, Ken is really big on QR codes. I mean, that's something he's real. Do you have your business card with you tonight?
You know, I don't. I'll have to bring that up as a on the next one here as that I can show it and share it like that on my screen, because it's easier to see. Not as easy to see on my phone, but
okay.
It's a handy little tool. I mean, I know Dale has just figured it out that restaurants have been using it for menus for 2 years now. Well, close to 2 years.
Yes, I've seen one restaurant utilize. I'm sorry, two restaurants.
The trouble is you don't get out much, Dale. But
well, that's true.
The QR code that I have for my business card is really just a great technology. I mean, if you run into somebody who asks for your card, you hold up your phone next to their phone, and bingo, they've got your business information.
So it's on your phone. I see.
Yeah, it's on your phone. It's on your phone, and you can hold it up and let them snap a picture of the QR code, and then they've got your business card. Because the statistics are out there. The amount of business cards that either get lost or tossed is higher than somebody who gets it on their phone and will retain it.
Yeah, you're probably right on that. That's probably right. Yeah.
I mean, I know this stuff was available when you were in the corporate world, but
that's true. That is so true. That is so true. All right. Okay. Well, as I said, our theme this year, we continue with this theme: Convention of States and activism, and how you can express your activism through Convention of States. And we encourage you to join us for the purpose of doing that. So tonight we are going to bring on our newest addition to our leadership group here in Indiana. And this is our Convention of States Regional Legislative Liaison. And her name is Kelly Beall. And let's bring Kelly on. Hello, Kelly.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Hi, Kelly.
Good. Yes, Kelly is, like I said, Kelly is our newest regional legislative liaison. And pardon me?
Newest and first.
Yeah. And so Kelly, as we thank you for coming on and participating
Absolutely.
this evening. We always ask Convention of States leadership individuals to tell us your COS story, not your life story, but the story about how, when, where you got involved in Convention of States. So tell us your story, Kelly.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and so thank you for asking me. So my story is very simple. I grew up in a I don't want to say a political family, but my grandpa and I had a lot of great conversations around politics, and so I learned from the best how to debate and how to do your research and to understand both sides so that you can really relate to people. And so I've always followed politics, always enjoyed it. And then with I guess COVID happening in early 2020, and noticing some things that I didn't really understand going on, and some just maybe some government overreach, which I know is going to be a topic tonight that we're going to talk about. I was looking for a way to get involved, and knowing that there's so many things that come at us from a political perspective. But you can't tackle everything. And so what makes the most sense? And I'm sure that many of you on the call listen to, well-known podcasters or voices in conservative radio, whether that's Steve Deese or Glenn Beck or Steve Bannon. I mean, there's a multitude of different individuals that people listen to. Those are some that I do listen to. And one thing that I heard from them repeatedly, they talk the same talk, and that was, we must get back to a grassroots level. And all three of them were very, very positive about Convention of States. And so I'd heard about it. And so I started doing my own research. And once I realized what the mission and vision was, and that the focus was on little government, on, following the Constitution, and really, as Dale has on the back of his backdrop, we the people, we are the people, and it's our country. It isn't the people in Washington's country. And so I saw this position, and I knew it was a new position. I like new things. I like being a guinea pig. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to throw my name in the ring and see what we can do here. And so I'm very excited about the opportunity.
Isn't it interesting how grandpas play an important role in this? You must have had a good relationship with your grandpa.
I had a wonderful relationship with my pawpaw, and yes, he was a very, very conservative, a very godly man, and he believed in the Constitution, and I'll tell you, he could be very passionate at times. And he and I would laugh at him sometimes as he would get fired up watching Bill O'Reilly when Bill O'Reilly was on Fox News. So I'm dating myself, yes. But we had such great debates. And sometimes, maybe I was younger. I mean, I was like 18, 19, 20 years old when we were having some of these debates. And so, it was good for him to hear maybe a younger person's voice. And it was nice for me to hear some of the conservative values and, with what's going on in education and things like that. And some of the things that are happening in colleges to our kids today. I'm glad that I had that balance of hearing my grandpa talk about, what happened during World War II, or what happened during the Depression, or even the 70s and Vietnam and those types of things, and having some real grounding, and not necessarily just believing what I read or what somebody told me, but having someone who really lived through that understand it.
Is he still alive?
No, he passed away about 10 years ago.
Did he? Okay. Well, you're looking at two grandpas here, so.
Awesome.
But
I'm looking forward to having those type of conversations with my grandkids.
Have you? Okay. Well, I used to do when I picked up the kids. It's the grandpa's taxi service here, picking the kids up from school. We did a little Constitution class in the car, talking about the Constitution. So hopefully, those kinds of things will resonate as they grow older and become adults. So
absolutely,
it certainly did with you.
It absolutely did, and I think that just speaks to what Convention of States is, because it is grassroots, it's local, it's family, it's your community, your friends, and instead of looking at it how I think we do today, it's very top down, and that's not how this is supposed to be, and that's not how the founders wrote our Constitution or our Bill of Rights. It really is at a local level where people govern locally, because everyone, people in Indiana have different needs and different struggles than somebody in California or Texas. And that's why it really doesn't make sense. And I think we're seeing some of the problems we're seeing across the country because we're trying to govern at a federal level and make everybody fit into a box. And that just doesn't work. We're different people. We're a huge country. And so we must, that's the whole beauty of having, where, the states really should be governing their citizens. It shouldn't be the federal government.
Yeah. You mentioned some of the names of the conservative people that you followed. Mark Levin, I think, has so many people that we talk to when they mention names of conservative people that they have followed or listened to. Mark Levin is generally always mentioned. I know he was instrumental in my situation.
Yeah, he is awesome, and boy, isn't he fired up right now?
Oh, he always seems to be fired up. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I just listened to him yesterday. So, he's a great guy. I've read several of his books. I like such great perspective.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I wanted to give you a chance to tell us about your background.
Sure.
Because it's basically a healthcare background. I guess it's from what you told me, pretty diverse, but it's all within healthcare. Kind of give us a summary, maybe a bit of your resume, I guess I should say, on your working career.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm a nurse, and I would say it's the best career to have, because you can be a nurse and you can have 40 different careers in a 40-year career. You could have a new job every year if you wanted to and do something totally different. So I've been a nurse for about 25 years. Went to school at IU East in Richmond, Indiana. And when I graduated, I went and worked at a small hospital as an OB nurse. And from there, moved into education. I taught for Ivy Tech for a while. I was a dean of nursing for a little while. And then most recently, I worked in hospital operations at a C-suite level, working with, nurses, doctors, in that capacity, with, strategic initiatives and also operational efficiencies, that sort of thing. And most recently, I'm working at the national level for a company out of Washington State as a healthcare consultant. So I have it's a great job. I love it. And I love being able to go around across the country and see what is going on outside of Indiana in terms of healthcare. And boy, it is way different from state to state.
Well, there's nothing going on in healthcare.
No, nothing at all.
There's nothing to see there, right?
No, it's pretty boring.
Yeah,
pretty boring. No, nothing at all. I mean, I'll just give you a quick example because it just happened today. And you don't really think, when you think about healthcare, you don't think about stocks and bonds and real estate and trading and things like that. But, healthcare, they're all businesses. And, COVID and the pandemic has really caused a lot of, hurt to healthcare systems across the United States. And, just today I learned that, a fourth of the hospitals, if not more, across the United States are losing their bond ratings. And so, I think I read yesterday that 76 hospitals in June have closed across the country. And a lot of those hospitals that have closed have been like critical access hospitals, smaller hospitals that, and that's going to create an entirely different pandemic or crisis, because we live in a rural state, and there are some people that have to drive an hour to a hospital. And so if that hospital closes, then you're looking at 2 hours for healthcare. And what does that mean for managing chronic conditions or even an emergency situation? So lots of things going on in healthcare right now.
Wow, wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. I wasn't either. Yeah.
Okay, well, we better move on here. We could talk. we could talk a long time just on this.
Probably could.
All right, you're a regional legislative liaison for us. Kind of tell us what region, what part of the state are you covering for us?
Right. So as you mentioned, Dale, this is a new position. So Marty, as the state director, has been kind of mapping things out, and we have we have a map that he's sketched, and I know that he's looking to bring on additional regional liaisons. For my region, I would say I'm covering the southeast, or kind of the south of 70 on the east side of the state area. So Richmond, Liberty, Connorsville, Brookville, Lawrenceburg, and then all of the small towns that go in between there. So Centerville, Indiana, Hagerstown, Winchester, Portland, that's really what I'm covering across the state.
Okay. All right. See, the folks, the one of the reasons for creating these positions is what Kelly is going to be doing is typically the responsibility of district captains and regional captains, and we're organized around house districts. So we hope to have someday a district captain in each house district. Well, we're not there yet. So there are a lot of vacancies, a lot of areas where we don't have a presence. So Kelly will be that presence for the time being until we can fill those positions. And even once they're filled, she'll be there to assist in legislative tasks that are involved in being district captains or region captains. So, of course, Kelly, what your main objective, being a legislative liaison, is to interact with the legislators in the region, in the area that you're covering, and we're talking state legislators now, state representatives, state senators. Can you give us an idea who you're going to be interacting with?
I absolutely can. So from the state Senate perspective, the individuals that I'll be working with, Mike Gaskill, Jeff Ratz, Gene Lysing, Chip Perfect from the Senate side, and then from the House side, John Prescott, Thomas Saunders, Brad Barrett, Randy Lysing.
Okay. I didn't ask you to have this prepared, so I'm kind of throwing this out at you. Do you know how many of those support convention of states?
I have not heard from any of them. I have reached out to each one of the individuals that I just spoke about. I've reached out to them via phone and email requesting some meetings so that we can get together, so that I can talk to them and gauge where they're at, or what their understanding is of Convention of States, whether they support Convention of States, whether they would want to partner with us. I don't have any intel on where we are with that.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess this kind of falls within this next topic of your role with these legislators. Do you happen to know, were any of them in office in 2016 when our resolution was passed?
Some of them, yes. Because I went through kind of to look at how long people had been in office, and in 2016, I believe that every single one of the individuals that I listed was in office in 2016.
Okay.
I know all four of the senators were for sure. And the only one that I'm not sure about is Brad Barrett, Dr. Brad Barrett. He's in the Richmond or the Wayne County area. And I thought he was either 2016 or 2018. So he may have not been there when it was passed.
So if they were there in 2016, then you will be able to find out whether they voted in favor of our resolution.
Perfect.
But and of course, it's so important. Ken, you know this too. It's so important with these legislators because obviously we have elections and new legislators come in, and believe me, that it doesn't mean that they know what Convention of States is all about, or that they even know that Indiana has passed the resolution calling for a convention. So, Kelly, you know, when it comes to new legislators, you've got an educational process to go through with those individuals. and you've got to do that. You've got to do that in a positive way and create that relationship. So good. Well, I'm good. You know who to contact, right?
I do.
Go after and okay. Good deal. Well, Kelly, we've been focusing here in this year in Convention of States on the topic of government overreach, and as a matter of fact, our upcoming roundtable next Monday evening, the overall topic is going to be government overreach, and there's so much. Government overreach covers such a wide area, and I think what we wanted to do with you, we wanted to ask you, since you have your healthcare background, that tell us about the three top issues healthcare wise when it comes to government overreach that you're probably going to be talking to these legislators about. Okay. And I know you're ready. I know you're prepared for this one. So, you want to start with COVID? You want to start with that one?
Absolutely. We could definitely start with COVID. So COVID, I think, was one of the most egregious government overreaches that we have ever seen as a country. The right for us to choose how we handle our bodies and what we put into our bodies. It's a God-given right. It's our decision. It's not the government's decision. And so with vaccine mandates and the pushing of the vaccines, the vaccine passport discussion, government employees being forced to be vaccinated, that's one piece that I feel is extremely just devastating. But then the other side of that is the lack of transparency in terms of data and understanding not just one side of the narrative, but the other side. And I know that that's been something that you guys have talked about. I think that that's been a topic of conversation, for the last 2 years. And it's not necessarily just limited to healthcare when it comes to COVID, but, look at what happened to our kids in school. That's a healthcare issue as well. And, locking students down, isolating them. I mean, we're already starting to see in healthcare, we're already starting to see the devastation that it's caused to mental health with kids. So, suicide rates are on the rise, drug addiction, alcohol abuse, all, depression, all of that has increased. And you can see the spike. It's not just a small rise. It is a spike straight up from pre-pandemic. So March of 2020 to now. And in Indiana, we got back to school pretty quick. And I was happy to see that. But we still have our issues in Indiana, and other states are far worse off than we are.
Kelly, I thought about this when you said that you were a nurse. Back in February, I think it wasn't in February where there was some committee testimony going on down at the State House. And we had a number of people, Marty Wood was one of them, but we had a number of people go down and testify in front of this committee about, I think it had to do with the mandates and whether Indiana should do this or that. I can't remember the exact topic, but the point I'm getting to is I went down and watched our people testify and watched other people testify. And there were a number of nurses that came on and talked about how they had lost their job.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Because they would not
take the vaccine.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we're talking nurses with 20 plus years of experience. Mm-hmm. And it was heartbreaking to me to see these dedicated people lose their careers. I hope and pray they found employment elsewhere in the same field. But
Nurses and doctors went from being heroes to zeros very, very quickly.
Yeah.
We were the heroes when we were the only ones going in and taking care of all of the patients and dealing with everything. But then when it came back to taking the vaccine ourselves and making that decision, we weren't afforded that opportunity. And it's so unfortunate because there is a significant amount of science that supports natural immunity as the most effective form of protection against COVID. And we know that, between 75% of people already having COVID and having natural immunity, and those that are vaccinated, I mean, it didn't make any sense, because what happened with COVID was so far removed from anything we've ever done in healthcare before. The science was there, but no one was following it. And it was just very unfortunate. And I don't want to sound, like a conspiracy theorist, but there's just so many things that didn't make sense. And even now, things that are coming out. California is getting ready to re-implement mask mandates. And I mean, the CDC, for crying out loud, has already said masks do not work. It's like, it's not even rational anymore. And from a nursing or a scientific background, I think that's what's so frustrating to all of us that are in healthcare, is because we can sit and look at that we were trained and educated to do so, and what we've learned and what we've been taught was completely dismissed. And then, of course, for me as a nurse, if somebody's dismissing what I know to be true or of the scientific method, then I'm probably going to question what the heck's going on and why is it so important for me to take this vaccine.
Yeah, we have a number of newer viewers that are asking a few questions. I think now might be a good time, because you mentioned testifying down at the State House, that one of our newer viewers has asked this, or has put up this question. He's new to this and wants to know how we can resist what is coming on a personal front. So protecting our children from being taken or coerced into anything. And I know this is probably a very broad area that he's talking about, but I mean, it could take a number of different rabbit trails that we could follow on this. But I think one of the things you talked about there is testifying to our state legislators and getting involved in that way is one way to at least in Indiana here locally, to institute ways to protect ourselves and our children. I mean, they have to know that what our concerns are, and they are there to act for us. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you've got anything further to say on that, or whether Kelly could introduce, because he also asked at the same time, he wants to know, are there enough states now to call a convention of states? And I know we can answer that quickly and move on to that, but no, we're at 19 and we need to get to 34. So
we're at 19, we need to get to 34. But I've got an answer for the first question. Kelly, anything you want to say about that?
The only thing that I would say is get involved in your school board and understand what your school board is doing. Ask those questions. Ask, what's going to happen, what happens if the federal government says they want to do a mask mandate? What does that mean for my school? Because that was still going on nationally, but Indiana pulled back on that. So, again, you have to start locally. So start at your school board and ask those questions, get those answers, know what your policies and procedures are, and then go from there. But if you have that as your base, then you'll be able to use that if they're violating their own policies and procedures.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. As a matter of fact, we have a couple convention of states leaders here in Indiana that are going to be running for their local school board. So that's it. Get off the couch, get involved. That's all part of self-governance. Okay. That's topic number one. And number two topic is the Second Amendment. What could possibly go wrong there, Kelly?
Well, I don't know, but I can say this: the Second Amendment is probably, to me, that's what sets us apart the United States apart from the rest of the world is that is a God-given right, that we have the right to bear arms and protect ourselves and our families. And the more that that's chipped away and infringed upon, the more we become closer to being Australia or Canada or England, which I don't know if any of you watch the news, but that's not where we want to be. We have to have the right to bear arms. And a great example of that just happened yesterday in Greenwood at the mall, where an individual entered to apparently mass shoot many people at the food court, and some young, upstanding, brave hero stood up and protected everyone there. And unfortunately, that gentleman lost his life, but he saved probably, dozens of people that would have lost their life yesterday. And so, to me, that is the right there's just a glowing example of why the Second Amendment is so important, and why we must not allow them to take that away from us.
Yep. All right. Well, the third one, there's certainly nothing controversial here about this topic.
No, not at all.
So Roe versus Wade, that might be something you'll be talking about.
It potentially could be, and I would say, and I've shared this with the two of you. I wasn't even born when Roe versus Wade happened in 1972, or I think it was.
Did you hear that, Ken? She wasn't even born then.
I know.
I wasn't. I didn't come along until 1976, the year of Star Wars.
Holy.
76. That was the year I got married. Uh-oh.
Oh, well, there you go. So, to me, with Roe versus Wade, it brings up a lot right now because of the overturning and it being brought back to the state level. But I would say that in the 70s, when this was brought into federal law, that to me was probably, one of the biggest government overreaches to ever take place. And in my opinion, you can see that by doing so and taking that ability to govern away from the state, it's a free for all right now. And now we have state judges overturning law that had been in place, from 20 years ago. It's just creating a whole level of chaos, not to mention that, when that happened in the 70s and that ruling took place, people assumed that was actually a right in our Constitution, and it is not. And so for the last 40 years, people have been walking around with a false sense of security, I guess, in terms of what's in the Constitution, especially if you're a pro-choice person. And, so I feel like we need to be mindful. We need to listen. We need to understand the other side. But this is a huge government overreach issue, and it is going to continue to be worse. And if you follow the news today, the last that I heard is that President Biden is going to write an executive order to basically do his best to overturn the ruling that the Supreme Court just did a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to hold any water.
Anyway, no, I don't either.
Well, there is and there will be a lot of discussion.
There will
on this particular topic. Well, let's wrap this up, Kelly. And I think our question just a few minutes ago about what can I do to protect my children and so forth. It's all comes down to self-governance, I think. And and what you're doing by taking on this role as a regional LL, regional legislative liaison, it's all part of self-governance. And that's such an important issue in convention of states. So
it is. Thank you very much.
Kelly, Ken, any other comments or anything we need to look at, Ken?
No, a number of things we could probably get into that might take up the rest of the night, but
yep.
Yeah,
there was one comment made. Let me go back to it a little bit earlier. This was just, and I'm just curious, Kelly, whether you have any statistics on this, but we had one, I think, relatively new viewer mention that she has seen a record number of bigger hospitals being built as older ones are closed. Do we have any stats on newer, bigger hospitals being built?
Well, IU is building all across, across the state. So I know, a number of regional IU hospitals are going up. And I know that, up in the Fort Wayne area, Parkview is building a newer hospital. I can't think of any in the South right now, but but I know IU is really trying to expand their footprint across.
Yeah, they're coming into Fort Wayne. They're into the Fort Wayne
That's
area.
right. That's right. They are into Fort Wayne. Well, and then yes, that's right. They're in it's Fort Wayne, or it's IU, Lutheran, and Parkview, and all three of them are kind of vying for patients. So.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, Kelly, we went over time, but it was well worth it. Kind of, it always happens that way. It always happens that way. But that's Kelly. Thank you so much for coming on this evening.
My pleasure.
We may have you back again.
Okay. Well, I'd be happy to. I would be happy. It would be my honor.
You seem to. I think there's plenty of things to talk to you about. So
probably.
We'll do this again. And again, thank you very much. You're welcome to hang out in the lobby if you would like.
I certainly will.
All right. Thank you very much, Kelly.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Take care, Kelly.
All right. Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to bring up, Dale, well, didn't have anything to do with what Kelly was talking about, but it does go back to the school board recommendation that you had put up. And again, we had another question asking, how they find out about who's running on these teams before the elections. Do you have anything that we can at least look forward to at this point, where we can get this information? I know we've been working on a number of things.
We are working on a program. It's called the Road to Activism. We're working on a program where we're going to try and provide this information as to who the candidates are. It's a work in process, quite honestly, but that's a very good question. And we're going to try. We're trying to come up with something to help provide that information. Can't nothing to roll out to you right now, but hopefully we'll have something by the time November comes around. Okay.
Here we are.
All right.
I think there's a few other questions on there, but I'd say probably the best thing to do is if you have continued questions that we can't get to tonight, you want to put up that email address, Dale. Send your questions to raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to answer some of these questions we can't get to live, and get that back out to you. I know there's another website or so that we can also help with who's running and what their positions are, and we'll be able to answer those through the email. So just want to bring that up.
Okay. All right, Ken, let's get to going on Raise Your Voice, huh?
Do our Raise Your Voice. Let me go ahead and bring up Marango to go ahead and get us started there.
All right.
Yo, scan the code and join the fun. It's your turn to be heard.
Okay, we are going to bring up the QR code for our evening poll here and get that up for you. So we are going to pull that up right now, and it should be showing on your screen about now. So you've got the QR code on the left-hand side, and it looks like we've got a number of questions that have already popped up here, Dale. These are not part of our poll, but we might as well go ahead and at least look into these as best we can while people are getting their smartphones out or logging into Slido.com. And these are questions coming in, looks like from Mike Zeals and Daryl. So these are a couple of things that were posted while we were getting ready. First one there's still so much going on with the medical mandates. What's a state change to return medical care to the individual point of service, removing Fed control? Let's see. I'm trying to understand. It looks like what's a state change to return medical care to the individual? That would be something obviously we'd have to be addressing in government overreach, because it should be returned to the states.
Right.
And university, military, and any industry corporations are allowed to deny entry. The state constitution adding statutes against these large market forced collectives. So a couple of comments, I guess. And speaking of vaccines and people losing their jobs, I've seen the common amendment proposals, but is there any drive for an extended Bill of Rights? Not
Kelly, you got any? See, I'm glad you hung. You have any comments on these these statements or questions?
Oh, well, I mean, I know from the federal level, the military side of things. Oh gosh, I don't want to say anything that may not be 100% fact, but I do know that there was just I know that the military piece just went to circuit court again today, and that I think this I just read this right before we jumped on this call, and it looks like a circuit court has again pushed down the federal mandate and said that it's unconstitutional. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that, because I know the military has just dismissed, I think, 10,000
Yes.
soldiers.
And the circuit court is saying that's unconstitutional, what the
Yes.
government did.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yes. And it just keeps going back and forth. It's, a circuit court will say that it's unconstitutional, then the government will go back again. And I mean, it just keeps going back and forth. What I just don't understand is the government themselves have said the vaccines are not effective. So I don't understand why this push when Anthony Fauci just was on TV last week saying that he knew, that the vaccines were not effective. And the man's, boosted and triple vaxxed. So I'm not understanding why the government is being so stern and strict on this. But I want to say that from the state perspective, if the state of Indiana would say that they're not going to follow the federal mandate, the state can do that.
Interesting. Well, those are interesting questions. I don't know that we have all the answers to them right now.
Yeah. One other thing too is I do know that in some states there have been overturnings of the vaccine mandates, and employees have been given their jobs back. I know that happened in Florida for a fact.
Really? Oh, that's good.
Yeah, where it was overturned, and when it was overturned, the governor reached out to those hospitals, and they had to take those employees back. I mean, they were brought back in, which would make complete sense considering, prior to COVID, we were already in a healthcare crisis in terms of employees with a nursing shortage. So now you take what's going on right now with COVID and removing nursing staff from the bedside, it just doesn't make any sense at all.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's move on, Ken.
We'll get our poll going here. So now's the time to get your phones and answer the first question.
Kelly, I'm gonna put you back in the lobby one more time here. Hang in there. We may call you back.
Well, our first question tonight is: should a cognitive test be required for every person who declares as a candidate for president of the United States? I'm not talking about after the election or after they're in office. I'm talking about, should every person who decides to throw their hat in the ring, should they be taking a cognitive test? We've got 67 on no and 33 on yes. So I find this quite interesting. Down to 25, up to 75 on no. So it's going to bounce around a little bit right now, 60-40, but
interesting.
Nobody that's not sure. So we have pretty much a split poll here, but I'm a little surprised to find it going towards no. I guess people don't want to have to submit to that type of a test just to put that. So that's the first question. Our second question: when a convention is called, should Indiana send legislators or common folk to the convention? Or a combination? Or if you're not sure. So it's legislators, everyday people, combination. And again, this addresses, right now we got, that's a 50-50. So combination, everyday people. Nobody's at this point saying it should be just strictly legislators. So I find that interesting. Combination seems to be winning out, which it makes sense to me. But
it makes sense to me too.
Yeah, interesting to find out what people are thinking. Who should the delegates be?
Yeah.
That's our second poll question for the evening, and again, these can continue to be answered even after the poll closes. So this last one is a quiz. We're going to do a quiz tonight. So we're going to ask you to join the quiz, and let me get that up here if it's going to show. Where to go? All right, here's our people that are, whoops. Let me get back to the third again. I hit the wrong button there. Join the quiz. So we've got Daryl Lace and Celeste Robbins who are joining the quiz. And now if I can bring up the quiz. Stacy Tedlock. And let me go ahead and find the...
Those are new names. I'm glad to see these
names. Yeah, and I'm having trouble finding this quiz. I know I put it in there. Let's see. Now we got people wanting to join it. Let's see. Go to the poll. I don't know why it's not showing here, Dale. I'm having a technical malfunction as we speak on this quiz. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to go back here for a second and figure out what the quiz question was. How many votes does each state get once a convention is called? That's the
quiz question.
That's the quiz, yes. How many votes does each state get when a convention is called? Is it 1? Is it 2? Or is it depend on the size of the state? So that's the quiz. That's the quiz question. I'm not sure why it's not showing. There should be some way to show the answer to that, but the quiz is a new one for us. So I thought I'd try a quiz, and it looks like it's backfiring on me here.
All right. Well, that happens.
Yeah, it's not showing me but you can still go ahead and answer. It's not going to show here. So we'll go back to that is the quiz. And if you want to put that in, if you've got a spot on your smartphone or your Slido poll, just tell us what you think it is. 1, 2, or as many as it takes. We'll give you a quick. I think we'll go ahead and answer that at the end of the segment tonight. Dale, what do you think?
Okay. Well, I think that's we're at the end of the segment, right?
Well, we are. We're at the end of the segment.
So you want me to say the answer, or do you want to say the answer?
I think you ought to say the answer.
You what?
You ought to say the answer. Yeah.
Each state gets 1 vote. That has been the rule on a convention of states.
And that's because you've got California and you've got Rhode Island, and certainly it would, unlike anything else, they both should be representative equally, right?
Each state can send as many commissioners or representatives there as they want, but when it comes down to voting, each state gets 1 vote. So that was the answer to that question. It'd be interesting to see what the answers were. But
yeah, I hope that they show up. I have to figure out what happened to that quiz.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on and kind of wrap things up here. Then want to remind people. I think we're going to, Ken, because we went so long tonight, I think we're going to skip the contributor segment.
All right.
So
it's a couple minutes long.
It's
a couple minutes long at least.
Yeah. We'll kind of wrap things up here. Once again, folks, if you want to join Convention of States, which we hope you do, first step is to go to our national website, conventionofstates.com. Also, note that next Monday will be our roundtable. So you'll want to join us for that. And as Ken mentioned earlier, if you have any comment or questions after the broadcast, feel free to drop us an email at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com, and we'll respond to you the best we can. So we're going to, I think, make that a wrap for this evening, Ken. So I always like to close with this particular acronym that we've adopted, here on our broadcast, and that is when it comes to activism through Convention of States, folks, it's time to get off the couch. GOTC, get off the couch and do something. So many of us that are in Convention of States, we all got to this point at one point or another of it's time to get off the couch and do something about our country. And, I was just talking to a former state director the other day, and she reminded me of why she got involved in Convention of States, and it was for the benefit of her grandchildren and the country that she wants to leave for her grandchildren.
Yeah.
And
in line with the way I thought. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And as Kelly was speaking earlier, I think her grandpa felt the same way, that he wanted this country. He wanted to leave her the country that he knew and grew up with, and I think that's we've all got grandchildren. Both Ken and I have grandchildren. Matter of fact, I got a couple greats. So I'm in the same boat, and that's why we're involved in this, is to do what we can to make this country great and leave a country for these kids that we grew up with and that we believe in. So, folks, get off the couch. Come join us, Convention of States here in Indiana. So that's a wrap. Ken, have a good evening.
Thank you, Dale. I was just going to say, the only thing I'd like to add to that is, I was always taught to as you grow into the older segments of life, that you want to leave a better life for those that leave behind, not just one that we knew. I mean, which at this point, there's many good things about that, but we have an opportunity to actually leave a better life for them if we can get some of these constitutional and governmental overreaches and things straightened out and leave that behind for our grandkids. So.
Well said. Well said. Right. Thank you, folks. See you next Monday evening. And once again, I want to thank Kelly for coming on this evening and spending time with us. We look forward to working with her. So good night, everyone.
Good night.